to be the highway special district signage. I think we've called it different things, but just the highway signage issue.
Their freeway,
Yeah.
freeway signage? Yeah, I did, yeah, you're right, we've called it multiple things.
Yeah.
Discussion? Second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? You guys, everybody okay with it? Okay, all in favor of moving one of the tabled until further notice to an unfinished business, item number 7, highway signage. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so modified the agenda for item 7, highway signage. Anything else? Okay, approval of the agenda as modified. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we need, actually, we should have, did we get a motion to approve it? Don't we need a motion?
For what?
I think the motion
Oh,
for
for
the
the
highway special
Right.
signage was one that
Did
Yeah.
you get it? Okay,
Yeah.
all right, there we go, and Scott seconded it, there we go. So you did, you got
okay.
2 items in there, all right, okay. Approval of last meeting's January 7 minutes. Yeah, January 27th minutes.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented.
Second. Okay, any questions? All right, all in favor of the approval of the minutes?
Aye.
Okay, all right. Audience participation, anybody here that wants to talk about items that are not on the agenda tonight? Gary? Okay, all right, then let's get started on the public hearing then. Are we ready for that? Okay, all right. We'll open the public hearing for the non-conforming issues, Chapter 2012, non-conforming issues and structures. Anybody wish to speak on that tonight?
Like staff presentation first?
Oh, sure,
Okay.
you bet.
Just to go through,
Sorry about that. That's a penalty, Gary.
yeah, you can't speak anymore.
Oh, well.
Gotta call it in.
Okay. So, I just want to give a quick summary of the proposed revisions. The current regulations that we have under Chapter 1612, they're in an administrative section of the code, and it's not quite the proper location for them. Plus the fact that they're pretty basic non-conforming use regulations, and they don't cover all bases when you're looking at how to deal with legal non-conforming uses, and when they become no longer legal non-conforming, grandfathered in, which is the common term. So the city attorney is putting out the non-conforming use section of the code into Title 20, which is the zoning code. That's a regulatory section of the code. So that's where it should be because they are regulatory codes. Just to summarize some of the changes that we're looking at in the new Title 20, there's now a provision that will be provided to whereby a property owner can request to attain a non-conforming use determination from the city, and that would be a administrative determination that the community development manager, myself, would make, which would be appealable to the hearing examiner if they did not agree with the determination. So that's something that's put in there, and that's subject to specific criteria. Yet it's not mandatory, but it can be requested. There are definitions provided for what a legal non-conforming use of property is and what a legal non-conforming structure on a property is. And the current code provisions do not provide these definitions. So when you get into that, underneath the current code, what is a legal non-conforming structure or use, it's not that clear. So that has to be clarified so it's easier for staff and for the public to determine what is legal non-conforming and what isn't.
Are those, Jack, are those both, so they both underneath the non-conforming use ordinance includes non-conforming structure?
Yes.
Although that's, okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted.
There's definitions for both, so that
Yeah.
that'll help provide staff if somebody comes in And one wants to know whether their use is still legal non-conforming or whether the structure's non-conforming, legal non-conforming. We'll have a definition for it. For them.
And they're both covered under the same, there's not one for structure and one for use, they're just both,
They're separate definitions.
but under the same word.
Yes. Oh, yes. Then the last change that you have within the proposed revisions deal with the criteria in determining when a legal non-conforming use has been discontinued or abandoned. It's not completely clear in the current code what that is. There's no real clear criteria. So and leaves it up to interpretation, which can leave the city open to lawsuits. And in the case of the criteria, the community development manager, which is me, can make a determination based on criteria which is very specific and would be used if the determination is appealed to the hearing examiner. The hearing examiner would use that criteria also to make the determination whether the legal non-conforming use is no longer legal non-conforming. So we have that criteria. So it makes it helps the city out, it helps the public out, and it protects the city a bit more in terms of liability, in terms of potential lawsuits. So that's why we're looking at the change to the regulations.
On page 4 of B, it says the use cannot be moved to a new location. What is that? So someone has a structure that is non-conforming, and they can, in the past, they were able to move it to
Well,
another location?
we're talking about a use now.
Okay.
Your definition of use. So if there's a use of the property,
How do you move it?
well, then you take a look at the use. For example, let's see what, down, say, somebody has a...
Automotive
Well,
repair shop in the...
Well, you could say a pig farm, automotive repair shop in a single-family zone, where they're clearly not permitted, but they've been there since 1939, when there's no regulation. So they're on a specific area of the property, let's say the northwest quadrant of the property. They can continue operating that square footage on that area of the property, provided it stays there. They decide for some reason, well, we want to move it to the southeast quadrant.
Okay.
That's the moving of the use, and then they would lose the non-conforming.
And they gotta comply with current.
Then they have to comply with current code.
So even within their own property boundary,
Yes.
so, because I thought, when you said that, I thought my first inclination was, somebody like over by Howard in that, I want to say strip mall, but what is that zoned over there?
Office park.
Office park has a repair shop there, and it's non-conforming use, and he decides to move it to another part of town, or, but what you're talking about is just even on the
It could be even
existing
on the
property.
same existing property.
Right.
If you use it in a non-conforming use status. Or it could be in an existing structure. You have a structure with a non-conforming use and you move it to another section. They can't do that. They'll lose their status. So it's pretty broad in that respect on the use of a property.
Is anybody in particular going to be affected by this? I mean, can you think of any?
It's hard to know until the people ask whether they have a legal non-conforming use or structure on the property. We do know of one situation that's just come up in the last couple months of a legal non-conforming use of property that underneath our current code and this code, there's loss of status. And what I'm waiting for from actually it's the mortgage company and the bank, since they're going to foreclosure the property, for some information from them regarding a court order that precluded them from being able to use the property as they intended to use it, which may be in terms of legal implications that their intent was to use it, but they were precluded by court order. So therefore, they may be able to continue to use it as a legal non-conforming use of the property. But I'm waiting for that. Absent of that, they can't use it for what it was used for. So I'm waiting for that.
That's if the new owner was to...
Yeah.
Not being used
It's
for
not
that
being
purpose
used.
for over 100 years.
Yeah, it's the use of the property and the legal non-conforming use hasn't been used for over a year, and they're saying it's because of the court order that they couldn't use it. because there isn't foreclosure and there's things to do with inheritance and all this other stuff. So I'm waiting for them to provide me the documentation where I can go back to the city attorney. Typically in those cases, if the court order that prevents you from continuing the use until all the matters are settled with the property, with the outside parties, that usually that's enough of an intent to be able to continue to use it as a legal non-conforming use. So, but like I said, that's one that would have been affected either by our existing code and our proposed code.
Can a non-conforming use be transferred, like the pig farm thing example? If you owned it and you wanted to sell it to me, I could buy it
Yeah,
and still...
as long as it's in the exact same place.
Same.
And that's all you use it for, you don't expand it.
It could be transferred through ownership, huh?
As long as you use it for the exact same thing and there's no expansion of it.
So try to bring in the small little pigs. Keep the big pigs.
Same amount of pigs.
Yeah. So you have to count how many pigs you have.
Yeah, there you go.
So the medical marijuana is still up there. Are they, one of them is legal, non-conforming, is it, right?
No, none of them are
legal?
None of them are legal.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Is a residential house in light industrial zoning, like down on Valentine there,
That's legal non-conforming.
that's the same thing?
Mhm. Now, there was a provision, if I recall correctly, in our codes for a single-family residence in a commercial zone, there was an exemption for that, for building it back up on the same footprint should it be destroyed. I can't recall, that's something that prior councils wanted to have, again, because there are single-family and commercial areas in the downtown core area, that if they have some issues, that they can still use the property as single-family until such time as commercial comes in. So,
I remember there was some discussion about single-wide motorhomes, or mobile homes, you know, and that they weren't legal, but if it burned down, they could be replaced, you know.
That's
so-
a whole other issue. Unfortunately, there's a court case that deals with those type of uses that we cannot preclude them coming back in with another mobile home.
Right.
So that's something that's come up in the last few months related to an existing mobile home park where they're replacing the mobile homes on it.
They wouldn't technically be legal at this time. Is there anybody at this time that wishes to speak on this matter?
Well, I just wanted to add one more point about residency, that they are, in 2068, we do allow a single-family home in commercial as a night watchman,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
abode, but it's secondary, you know,
Yeah, it'd be
it's not, it
secondary,
can't be
right.
the primary use.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, then, nobody else wishes to speak, then we'll close the public hearing. And then, any further discussion? So then, Jack, you're looking to move this on to council then, is that correct?
That's correct.
Somebody want to make a motion to send this to council?
I'll make a motion to do that, to move non-conforming uses, code revision, to the city council for review.
Okay.
All second?
You just have to read the motion like it's supposed to be.
Oh, down here on the bottom?
Yep.
I move that the planning commission recommend approval of the proposed revisions to legal non-conforming use regulations as provided for in the draft ordinance dated January 27th, 2014, to the city council.
15.
Oh, yes, it was 15.
Sorry about that.
That's why I read
Sorry,
it.
sorry,
thought that
nobody
had
got that
changed.
till now.
2015 to the city council.
I've just started getting my checks right today. Takes a couple months.
All second?
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor of the motion? Opposed? All right. All right, Jack, now you get to talk about it at council.
Yes, we'll probably have it on the March 19th council meeting. Proposed, we'll have the accessory dwelling units, for your information, on Monday night's council meeting.
All right.
The